Hi, this is Rohit.
Rohit, okay. Hi, Rohit.
Yeah, I'm not sure if my name is. Yeah, it's Kurti. I mean, I'll just change my name probably.
Yeah, okay.
Hello, sir. How are you? This is Rohit. I played chess with you. I think.
I think he's on mute. It's going to be an interesting discussion today. I think Guruji was telling me that he has the correct time for Sachin Tendulkar. Uh, does anybody have that? Do you have that, Rohit, by any chance?
No, but I can pull that if you want me to put it here on the chat.
Yes, that'd be great. I think Guruji shared it recently.
Good morning, Soumya.
Namaste, Guruji.
Namaste to all. Actually, what you can do, you can use the actual time of birth that is given first, even before birth time rectification.
Okay.
But later, try to use the rectified time. Okay. You can have two versions because, and you can also study at in what dasha he became, he achieved the maximum and things like that, and see if it is due to the normal Raj Yogas or is it only due to Neecha Bhanga Raj Yoga.
Got it. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put the original time first, 24th April 1973. And the original time is 1300. It's 1 p.m. Okay. And city is Mumbai. All right. So that's one. Version 1. And then we have just matching it with everything else. Mercury, Ketu, Ascendant, everything looks correct. Okay. 13 degree, 20 minutes. Okay, perfect. And then version 2. I'm going to share my screen. Once I have these dates in version 2, and I'm going to open these two for comparison. Open native 2, Sachin Tendulkar 1. All right. And then one more thing that we will need is the Neecha Bhanga rules. So I'm going to have that open as well. Close everything else. I'm going to share the full screen, I think, so that it's easier. I have some extra things open, but I'm sure people will not mind. They're all mostly astrology related. So I'm just going to share my full screen. And let me know if, folks, if you can see my screen.
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, yeah, no problem. I think we'll give a couple of minutes for folks to join, and then we can start the discussion. And a lot of you might be, much more well versed with the time sequence of his accomplishments. So I would definitely appreciate, in like finding out when did he do his first, big century or something like that. So we'll study the sequence. So I'll just start in like one more minute. 10:05. My 10:05. We'll start. Guruji, you will be in the background or you'll be available prior to your 10:30 appointment? Just curious.
Swami, I'll be on and off.
Okay.
But I'll try my best, to contribute. So I'm sure within this group, there must be people who are fans of Sachin, or maybe you could use a website to get the dates of achievement.
Correct.
Or
I'm on his wiki page.
Yeah, wiki page. Okay. Using the wiki page, you can, fuel the discussion, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. Okay, so we'll get started with our teacher's blessings and, Om Ganapati Namaha, just thanking our Lord of the Divine Studies, Ganesha, to help us with this discussion so that the right words come out, the right knowledge is shared. If anybody wants to say any other prayer, we can do that. Otherwise, we'll get started.
Om Gajananam Bhuta Ganati Sevitam Kapita Jambu Falasara Bakshitam Uma Sutam Shoka Vinasha Karanam Namami Vigneshwara Pada Pankajam. May the divine energies and the goodness in this universe guide us in understanding the horoscope of Sachin Tendulkar.
Thank you, Guruji. All right, so the goal today is, of course, to study the chart of Sachin Tendulkar, the great, absolutely amazing, legendary sportsperson, definitely India's jewel, and world famous, massive success. We will be seeing it through the lens of certain specific Raj Yogas, but also even general. And those of you who have just joined, welcome to the session. We will be looking at version 1 and version 2. The reason being that there has been, Guruji would like us to analyze both. There's a certain slight time difference between the two charts. So it will be an interesting discussion to see, what changes happen in the Navamsha or perhaps in the Bhava chart. I don't know. I haven't seen the version 2 yet. So as you can see on my screen, I'm sharing it. You'll see version 1 here in red right here, and I will be toggling between them later once we come to version 2. But we'll start with version 1. So before we jump on to specifically the yogas, any 4 to 5 main things that we can start? Anybody wants to contribute what they observe in the chart? Since we already know that this is a chart of a celebrity, we can quickly talk about some of the things that, talk
And
to
a prominent Neecha Bhanga Raj Yoga with Mars and Jupiter in the Makaram, and then also the Mars being at a deep exaltation at 26 degrees.
Oh, wow. Yes. And at what degrees does Mars exactly, what's its peak exaltation degree?
I think it's something around 24 to 26, I guess.
Okay.
I think it's 28.
28,
28?
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Deep
28.
exaltation is always a particular degree. It's not a range. The range is for Mula Trikona.
Okay. Thank you, Guruji, for...
So we'll keep making notes also in the chat. So 28 degrees.
Soumya, the background is, yesterday while I was doing the class on Neecha Bhanga Raj Yoga, I introduced a new concept, surrounding this Neecha Bhanga Raj Yoga. When you're not speaking, can the students be on mute? Right now, I think Shivani is, correct. So that will be, because it's getting recorded and it will be shared on Patreon and even YouTube membership platform. So when not on when you're not talking, please be on mute to reduce the sound. So that helps a lot. So the point is sometimes because Maharishi Parashara did not talk about, or at least we are told that he never spoke about Neecha Bhanga Raja Yoga, and we feel that even without this Neecha Bhanga Raja Yoga, we could still explain many events in life. Do we really need to use this concept? Because this concept was discussed in Phaladipika and Jataka Parijata. It came a little later. But we also have to keep in mind that when the later authors wrote that this is something special to Kali Yuga, and since Maharishi Parashara lived at the edge, like of Dwapara Yuga, crossover to Kali Yuga, so maybe maybe this was not discussed. Even that we can, kind of guess. Maybe it might have been not discussed. So first is to understand that Neecha Bhanga Raja Yoga means because you have a disadvantage or you have to go through a disadvantage, and then you convert the disadvantage into an advantage.
Correct.
That is the background of Neecha Bhanga Raja Yoga concept. Okay.
Yes.
I got bullied and therefore I try to become a hero, I go to the gym, I work out, I become strong. Those kind of things are often seen in movies.
Correct.
So is this just because of Neecha Bhanga Raja Yoga, or is it straight away coming from Raja Yogas? So there might be an overlap. And sometimes in many horoscopes I've seen, without the conventional big yogas, the Neecha Bhanga Raja Yoga has stood separately also. But it kind of camouflages itself, So the thing is, when we discuss Sachin's horoscope, the discussion about his time of birth has been given in another link. If at a later stage, if you can show that on using Google, you just click it open.
Yes,
the browser option is there, right? So you can, something like this, and then you can see he has provided a link at the bottom, DNA India something, right? DNA India, no, just above.
I saw that one. This one.
Yes, if you click that open, it'll actually show you the discussion. Exactly. This is the one I was looking for.
Okay.
And I mean, it's about main, it's an evidence that somebody has got the records. So, and then when you read the article, he also says why 1 p.m. Okay. Somewhere here you can see. He says at 1 p.m. exactly 40 years ago. So we could use at 1 p.m. I think the author rectified the time of birth again. By looking at the peak time of Sachin Tendulkar and trying to see if which planet contributed it. Is it straight from a straight Raja Yoga or from a Neecha Bhanga Raja Yoga?
Right.
So you can discuss on those lines. I'll be back in a few minutes.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Guruji. Yeah, so this is very interesting because I think since one of the prominent things that somebody mentioned was Neecha Bhanga, we can start with that and then we'll discuss the general other things also that we're observing in the chart that are prominent. But like Guruji was saying, the David and Goliath story, like he always talks about that story when he talks about Neecha Bhanga. Does anybody else know that story? It's a very, very powerful story. There's also a book by Malcolm Gladwell by the same name. Does anybody else know that story, David and Goliath? Otherwise, I'll be happy to share it, but I would love to see if other folks know it as well and if somebody else wants to share it. Okay. If you want to contribute to the story, feel free to, you can raise your hand, but I'll share very quick, because the reason why I'll be sharing this is it will really help you remember the Neecha Bhanga aspect of it. And Guruji always talks about stories helping us remember. So what he was mentioning was the underdog, or you go to the gym and you work out, or you were bullied, let's say, and then you rise above the occasion, you work harder, and then you become a success. And he talks about movies where, let's say, Superman was always very talented, so that's not very exciting. But if there is somebody who has gone through a negative and then risen, then it's like, people feel inspired. So David and Goliath's story, basically Goliath was this very big giant, part of the army that was trying to invade a kingdom. And this is a story from the Bible. And the king had sent the best of the best warriors to fight this army, but this Goliath was their main giant warrior. He was just 9 feet tall, really strong, and very strong armor. And then David was just a shepherd guy. He was just a simple guy who would take care of the sheep, farmer's son, basically. And he heard the word that, the king's army is facing defeat and nobody's able to defeat Goliath. And he goes and tells the king that I'm going to fight Goliath. So the king basically doesn't believe in him and almost laughs him off and says that you are going to fight, you are this tiny, skinny, and he's a very young looking, basically a teenager boy almost. And Goliath is this tall warrior with armor and, muscles, and just a really big warrior. So he says, no, trust me, you don't have any choice. Your army is anyways losing. So try me. So the king had no choice because they were anyways losing. So he decides to send David. And David, because he had to take care of the sheep, he was very good with using the slingshot, the sling. And just a simple tool like a slingshot, he would kill, they have to kill animals, the animals that will try to attack the sheep. So he tells the king, is like, you're going to go just like this. You can't even put on an armor. You're so thin, and he's like, I don't need that. I have my armor. And he goes to fight Goliath. And when he's going down the mountain, Goliath is waiting to see which warrior is coming to fight him. And when he sees David, he starts laughing. He's like, oh my God, they have come to this level now that they're going to send a shepherd boy to fight me. So he's extremely arrogant, and he has all his big swords and everything, and he's all beefed up and ready. And David is coming down with his sling bag and his slingshot, this teeny weeny little teenager boy. And he comes, and the thing that they have also tried to depict in that movie is that, of course, David is an underdog. He's nowhere, perception wise, appears to be really, really small compared to Goliath, but he's also very God-fearing. So he had God by his side. Like the background story is that. So he goes down the hill and he reaches Goliath, and Goliath is mad and also laughing, like at the same time. He's mad that they think they're going to send a shepherd boy. Like, this is an insult to me. I'm going to just, take care of him very quickly. But David was very, very focused. And what he found out was that there was a vulnerable point that Goliath had between his, right here near his forehead. So he had all these heavy armors, but this point was open, his forehead, where he wears his crown. So David was an expert in using his slingshot. And with the help of God and with the help of his skill set and his focus, he's able to use the slingshot and hit Goliath at his vulnerable point. And Goliath, this giant warrior, basically gets defeated. and they actually lose the war. So I think the story basically tells you about the story of somebody's, like Guruji was saying, they didn't start very strong, or they didn't appear to be very strong, or they had some kind of a disadvantage. But how, with the help of God, or with the help of your blessings, or with the help of your past punya, in our case, from astrology perspective, how the same thing can be converted into a strength, and you can actually win and overcome obstacles. So some of the charts that are Neecha Bhanga related, I think one of the other ones is also a very good analysis is Bill Gates. His is also a good chart to analyze without the Neecha Bhanga Raj Yoga and with the Neecha Bhanga Raj Yoga. Like both ways, the chart can prove a lot of things. So I think the focus what Guruji wanted today was that we should be able to tell from both perspectives. So that's a story that David and Galia that Guruji always talks about. So I wanted to quickly share that. Now, any other thing that we want to talk about in this chart, apart from Mars, exalted and Jupiter debilitated, anything else anybody wants to share?
Probably Rahu Moon conjunction close to 7 degrees, which also is a type of an. I think it's wrong of calling an eclipse or something, ecliptic related yogas, Grahan yoga or something like that, but still a commendable discussion. And and I also wanted to check with another point that it is generally kind of a controversial text or something. There are some texts which calls Rahu even debilitated in Sagittarius, and then some texts even say it's Scorpio. So which is generally to be considered? Is it both, or is it only in Scorpio?
Only Scorpio.
Okay.
Based on what we have learned from Guruji, so Rahu co-owns Aquarius, right? And Ketu, Rahu gets exalted in Taurus and debilitated in Scorpio, and Ketu is vice versa. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, we don't consider Sagittarius. But for the eclipse part, does anybody want to answer that for him or add to that? Do we think it's an eclipse or near an eclipse?
It's not an eclipse, but Moon, Rahu together, and Lagna Lord being Moon in 6th house with Rahu. And third Lord also, using your hand, your skill is debilitated.
Good point.
7th house.
There is no eclipse here because the sun is far away from Rahu Ketu axis. So we should not use the word eclipse unless sun is also on the same.
Yeah, I just wanted to check one point. In general, when Moon and Rahu, let's say, I have come across a very close acquaintance of mine. The lady had Moon Rahu in Scorpio, and then because in Scorpio both Moon and Rahu becomes debilitated, I read a text where there is a potential Grahan Yoga forming, and then lady has mental depression and anxiety.
No,
ADHD.
You could have the problem. You may have the problem just because of the Moon Rahu conjunction, but the word eclipse is a mistake.
Grahan.
Yeah.
No. I would I am not pointing it out to eclipse, but can it be regarded as a Grahan Yoga?
No, it's not a Grahan. Grahan is eclipse.
Right, Grahan. Okay, so it can never be regarded as a Grahan.
Yeah,
yoga,
unless the sun is on the same axis.
Okay, got it. Thank you, sir.
Then you'll have to use common words like afflicted. The typical word that is used is the moon is afflicted by Rahu. Okay.
Got it, yeah.
Yeah, and so always just use the exact words while describing some combinations or anything. Do not dilute it. Like in the beginning, I saw somebody saying, Mars is exalted somewhere between these 2 degrees. So once you dilute it like this, because in astrology, there are so many parameters, so many variables, we cannot increase the variables any further. And again, I wish to tell that those who are not speaking, please be on mute when you want to speak, because now we can hear my voice also, like an echo, because usually these videos are uploaded and it will stay forever on the internet with all the noise that is made. And before, when Soumya was describing the David and the Goliath story, we should immediately try to say something about Sachin that may be linked in a similar way. That's the best way to learn. Or are we saying we cannot compare Sachin to David?
Yeah, that's a great point, Guruji. I forgot that there is a very important point. So just shifting the discussion back to just the Neecha Bhanga, the story of David and Goliath. Just from a lot of you are cricket fans, if you had to look at Sachin before he was a celebrity, what do you think your perception would have been compared to the normal famous cricketers in the world? What do you think he doesn't necessarily have to show that he's a cricketer, like that he could become a legend in cricket?
Soumya, we can draw a parallel like this. You're so tiny, you want to take on the big guys in this world? Or at this age, you want to take them on? They're all adults. They're all big guys. The tall guys. I don't think you have any chance. And what are you going with? A sling, a bat. And whenever you say, India loses or Pakistan loses to India, India loses to Pakistan, we are almost comparing it like kingdoms. We're not talking about a cricket team. So we'll say you're going to fight them with a bat. No guns with you. You don't have any guns. You don't have muscles. You don't have, the physique.
Height, yeah.
Yeah, and then you look at him, at least I watched him when he was in the Australian, when he was in Australia. Even before I could bring in the concept of astrology, I was just, reminded of something, a story like this, where you're so small and tiny, and then you are amongst extremely tall people. And one of these matches I saw, the Australians were running all over the pitch. Like what we say, helter-skelter, So I still feel this, we could use the concept of Neecha Bhanga Raj Yoga here so that is the point. And one more thing, when we discuss under a topic, we always, it's better to remain with the topic as much as possible. Finish up the entire topic, then maybe have the discussion somewhere else. I mean, beyond that. Okay. You understand? So in between, suppose you bring someone else's horoscope, you dilute it. You produce a maximum results when you focus on something. Always. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, please continue.
Okay, Guruji.
That's for my breakfast. That's why. Okay.
Yes. That was a really, really good in terms of like how really like he really took on, and those other cricket teams of the other countries must have thought that, oh my God, this young guy, short, is gonna play cricket. So going to the second point, we'll just finish the 4 to 5 prominent points of the chart, and then we'll discuss Neecha Bhanga rules again and carry on the discussion. So the eclipse point, I hope, was clear. It's not an eclipse because eclipse is when you have Rahu, Ketu, and Moon and Sun They have to be together in the same house, and then also the degrees will matter. Anybody else wants to add? What else is really, really strong in this chart or prominent in this chart? Strong or negative, whichever way you want to.
The third lord debilitated. I want to understand that because he's a cricketer and using his hands.
Can I interrupt here? My birthday is just one day after Sachin's. So I have a very similar horoscope, except my ascendant is with Rahu and Moon. So I have kind of... here what happens is the Jupiter gets debilitated, gets Neecha Bhanga with Mars with it. And because it's in the 7th house from the ascendant, it becomes a Neecha Bhanga Raj Yoga. So it's in the Kendra also. And because Jupiter is debilitated and gets Neecha Bhanga Raj Yoga, Mercury also, which is debilitated, gets a Neecha Bhanga because its dispositor is also the debilitation is being cancelled, which is why his third lord becomes the Bhangas. It becomes Bhanga, that is, it gets cancelled, and he's also got his Yoga Karaka, which is Mars, aspecting Sun, which is exalted in the 10th house. So that's another big yoga, I think. His Mars is exalted, his Sun is exalted. And Mars is aspecting his Sun. So that's the Yoga Karaka planet exalting his own house and is exalting the Sun. Also, his 9th and 10th lord, that is his 10th and 11th lord is in conjunction, which is Sun and Venus. That becomes another Raj Yoga. So I think these are yogas that he has, which is why I think he's so famous. And Saturn is in his 11th house, which is again and Kala Purusha, it's supposed to be excellent to have Saturn in the 11th house. It's the best.
Yeah, it is. Yes.
And Rahu is in his 6th house.
I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
If I may interrupt, one question with regards to the Raj Yoga concept that you brought from the 10th and 11th. But the thumb rule for Raj Yoga is a conjunction or a connection between the Lakshmi Sthana and the Vishnu Sthana, or something like a Kendra and a trine. So here 10th is a Kendra, but 11th is neither a Kendra nor
I think this is a Dhana Yoga. I'm sorry, not a Raj Yoga.
Yeah.
But it's one of the...
Yeah, it's something like 2nd and 11th related. So it's kind of profit and a cash flow house being associated with the profession.
Correct. Profits, like the house of profits, which is 11th house. Yes. And Saturn in 11th is actually generally very good, like as per Sage Bhrigu also. And we can check that in the exact wording in Jyoti Star also. And if one of you has a book, you can read that also. But yes, so Sun is exalted, which is the lord of the 2nd, and 2nd is Dhanasthana. It's also the Maraka planet, but it is the lord of the Dhan house, the house of wealth, 2nd house, and it is exalted. And
it also, we can infer something like he can take up government positions because the 2nd being in the 10th, so he's already a member of parliament, so probably a long-term profession pertaining to government services.
Yes,
or politics.
Yes. Actually, fourth lord in 10th is, I think, is a combination also, because this is it's a rarer combination, right? Like to be able to get into politics and to be able to represent your country as a politician. It's a very small percentage of people that actually are able to get in at that level or into that field. So those are some great points. The other thing I wanted to add was that I believe Guruji had mentioned this, that Saturn and Mars also represent wood, like, in terms of the tool, the bat, because batting was his main skill set. And Mars is exalted in Saturn in the 11th. So we just want to keep that in mind as well. Anything else? So this is a good discussion. So just keep adding anything else that you can see.
Hi, Soumyaji.
Yes.
Okay, so if Guruji is listening, Gurubhyo Namaha, Guruji.
Kishorji.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there is some striking revelation coming from Saravalli. Embrace yourself. There is a description of conjunction between Sun, Venus, and Mars, Jupiter. So Sun, Venus, the statement goes like this. If the Sun and Venus are together, they will be skillful in the use of weapons. Now, yesterday, Guruji, I think yesterday or in the previous class, Guruji was talking about Desh Kal Patra, how to interpret the data in modern times. Okay, so let me read that statement. If the Sun and Venus be together, one will be skillful in the use of weapons, be mighty. And then, of course, there's something called affliction, weak-sighted in old age. And then again, another revelation, will be able to amuse the public. Okay, so that is the Sun-Venus conjunction. And there he also mentions that he will have abundant money earned through women.
Because of Venus?
Venus. We probably could use that as the partners, the public at large. Okay, right. The next thing that he talks about is Mars-Jupiter conjunction. Again, here he says, if Mars and Jupiter be together at birth, the native will be an artisan. That means one who is skillful with his hands, a Vedic expert. In this case, it's going to be an expert in something, okay? Intelligent, expert in speech, wise, and again, here comes the deal breaker, fond of using weapons.
Yeah.
Okay, that is one point. Second point, 2 exalted planets. Somebody has already mentioned, I think it was already mentioned 2 or 3 times. Lagna Lord in the 6th house with Rahu. Giving him the power to overcome obstacles because it's a Upachaya house.
And destruction of enemies, is that also true for Moon?
Could be.
Because I know Jupiter in 6th, usually 6th house is a tricky one, like having Mars there or Jupiter there is actually destruction of enemies or being very competitive and winning in competitions.
Jupiter in?
Jupiter in 6th, or like not in this chart, but I'm saying in general.
Yeah, that was
House
mentioned.
Is a very interesting house. 6th house is not just because it's Dusthana doesn't mean it's always just negative.
It is not Dusthana.
Yeah.
It is not Dusthana. It gives you the power. If the house is actually giving you the power to overcome obstacles, how can we say it's a Dusthana? Of course, it's a Dusthana according to the classical text.
Also,
but
and it's an Upachaya also.
Yeah, it has an added thing. Yeah. Now we go to the other revelations coming from Saravalli. So if Sun is in the sign of Mars, and it is of course receiving the aspect of the exalted Mars, the native will display his courage in battle. You see how the rishis are bang on target? Be cruel. Be cruel. Here, cruel can be, we can say one-minded focus, destroying the opponents.
Strategy.
Literally destroying their psyche. Cruel doesn't necessarily mean you have to go and kill the person. You can also kill a person morally, right? Like when we play a game of chess, I beat someone, they feel that I'm cruel. Today also my students were saying, Master, you're a very bad man. You're beating me always. So I'm cruel, right? Native will display his courage in battle. Be cruel. Will possess eyes, hands, and legs of blood red color. Be splendorous and strong.
Yeah, and I also wanted to bring another point. Thank you so much for the very nice and a versatile discussion. So yeah, in 5th house also being more a strategy or being more intelligent and versatility, and then especially when the 5th lord is exalted and or related to Mars, that makes the person more inclined in handling enemies or taking a direction or the actual strategy to win the game or something like that.
Yeah, and also Trina Lord, like you mentioned just now, Rohit ji, is also with the 9th Lord. So 5th and 9th Lord are together.
Connected.
That's also
Right,
very big in a Kendra.
Yeah, and I also see that Mars is also aspecting the ascendant.
Mm.
I remember his.
Mars will be is still a malefic when it comes to aspecting. It's not
but
aspecting
here
as a
Mars is,
like yoga karaka. It's aspecting as a malefic, but
it's still the 5th lord, the 5th and the 10th lord, which is the functional benefic for this ascendant, for the Katakam ascendant.
Yeah. So like
And
when
then
Guru says, right, plus minus, like the stacking up. So the fact that it's a lord of the 5 and lord of 10, it makes it the functional benefic, makes it the Raj Yoga Karaka for a Cancer ascendant. But when it comes to aspect, then the natural nature, it's a natural malefic.
Okay.
It's a negative. It's on the con side.
Got it.
Awesome.
I remember another point. I remember his luck took off after he married his wife. I don't know how that's shown here, but I remember his wife being a doctor and older than him. And somewhere I read that his wife was very lucky for him. So I don't know how that can be read here.
Might be an exaltation in the 7th.
His 9th lord in 7th.
Yeah.
9th lord of luck is in 7th.
And 5th is also considered one of the Purva Punya sthanas, like the last incarnation, the good deeds performed in the last incarnation.
Yes, and the profession, house of profession, which is 10, and the Purva Punya, like you said, Lord of 5, they're the same. So they have really blended with Lord of the 9th. And that in itself is a very big blessing. And then Lord of the 4th in 10th, Lord of the 2nd Dhanasthana in 10th. Those are some strong combinations. But one thing I wanted to ask, like, this is a good time for us to discuss the timing also. So at what age did he start? Did he start at 17 or 18? Is that correct?
Somewhere around 16 to 17 he started.
16 to 17. So Dasha wise, oh my God.
He's in Moon Ketu.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically right now, if you see, Moon is debilitated in Navamsha. And it is also 8th from the Arudha Lagna. So Moon Dasha is what would have given him sudden successes and everything.
Lagna Lord in 6th. How about we explore that a little bit? Does anyone have Moon in 6th house? Otherwise, I can check from Jyotishta report. Age of 16, right? So 16, he was Moon, Venus roughly. No, he was Moon Ketu. Okay, Moon Ketu, yeah. Can someone read? Because I would love to understand this. Otherwise, I can always open this report up. Does anybody else have it? If they have the book. If not, we can just read it from here. Let me see. And of course, we forgot. He has a Ruchika Yoga because it's Mars is exalted in a Kendra. So Moon in house 6. So I don't know if folks can read it right here. If the Moon is in house 6, the native will be poor and diseased body. In his 36th year, the native will develop illicit relations with a widow. If Chandra is associated with the malefic, the native will indulge in sinful deeds. I don't think any of these apply. So this will be an interesting discussion on how we counter the Lagna aspect. If Chandra is in conjunction with Rahu or Ketu, the native will be bereft of wealth. He will have dangerous enemies, will be quarrelsome, without brothers, will suffer from stomach ailments. In this disposition, watery places like ponds, wells may prove dangerous for his life. If Chandra is in conjunction with a malefic, the native will suffer from ill health. If Chandra is waning, it will give totally malefic results. If Chandra is in conjunction with the benefic, the native will have strong constitution and will be free from diseases. So we definitely have to study this aspect, because supposing we didn't really know that this was Sachin Tendulkar's chart, my first reaction would have been, oh, Lagna Lord in 6th. So now how is it getting any aspect from a benefic? Is the 6th house having any support from anywhere else?
Mhm.
I think the 6th and the 9th Lord are the same, and then the 9th Lord is connected with the 5th and the 10th Lord, which is one of which is a very good aspect. So that way, 6th is at least not in a serious issue or something like that. I'm not sure if I can interpret it that way.
Yeah, I was looking at Rahu in house 6 also. The native will be tolerant and very happy. If Chandra is associated with Rahu or Ketu, the native will have sexual contact with ladies of a king's family. He may be poor and a thief. And then 12th house is the native will have few children and suffer from eye troubles. He will go to hell after death. So obviously these portions are being dominated by the other strong yogas of the chart, because as we know, so we can't deny any of these, but there are stronger positive things that are helping him overcome, like in terms of his health and everything. So I think that's an interesting part as to why Moon Ketu was the starting point. Any other thoughts about this? And it's okay, we have Guruji, so he'll ultimately correct and and get us to the right track. So
do we not consider, I'm sorry, do we not consider Moon in being in which sign at all here? Because Moon is in Sagittarius, right? Which is kind of a Jupiterian sign. Shouldn't that help?
I mean, it definitely makes a difference.
Had it been Scorpio, I would have regarded it, those comments that were written, maybe even with more rigor. Yes, that can what happened to Moon, or Moon in Capri, but Moon in, I think, Sagittarius is considered good, right? And I think with Rahu, that has increased his fighting spirit and made him mentally strong.
So is this a waning moon or a waxing moon? Can anyone tell me? You should be able to tell it.
It's a waning moon.
It's a waning moon, correct.
Or which I don't know actually. It's going, it's the opposite of the good.
It's going towards the sun, no? Simple concept is going towards the sun, right?
Towards the sun. Krishna Paksha. Yeah. So that is also not very good. So Moon is not really a strong planet here. And then the Lagna Lord, I'm just trying to understand. And then the Shadbala is 146 or so. So
yeah, what I'm trying to tell you, Moon's debilation of Navamsha is good.
Okay.
Yeah, because you see, Moon is 8th from the Aruda Lagna. And any planet which is 6th, 8th, or 12th from the Aruda Lagna, which is debilitated in Navamsha, it's good. That Dasha will give you very fruitful results. Like he might have been struggling before the start of Moon Dasha. So during Moon Dasha, he came to cricket, met his wife, got married. So everything happened.
So 6-8 axis is generally considered negative. When you're saying from Arudra Lagna, it is 8th, Moon is 8th from AL.
Yeah.
So which shloka, which book is this, are you referring to for this one? Where you're saying that if it's debilitated, it is good?
Yeah. So, Pandit Sanjay Rath told about debilation of planets in Navamsha. He said, you need not be scared about the planets that debilitated in Navamsha if they are 6th, 8th, and 12th from the Aruda Lagna.
Okay, we'll have to check that with Guruji. I don't think I have that particular information. So that's very interesting. Um, and also, when did he actually like start getting famous? Somebody's music, can you please mute? I can hear some music. Thank you. When did he actually start becoming famous? Like, was it his first century or something? Or can cricket fans tell us that timeline? When did people start noticing him and like started talking about him? Yeah, school cricket, okay. But like at what age did he start playing professionally and he started getting known? Like he became a known cricketer, famous. I would think Mars period is going to be awesome. Like right after Moon, he has Mars Mahadasha. Can we Google it? Can somebody please Google that? Let me just stop sharing for a second. I need to get my camera going again. $1989. Okay. 1989. Get my camera up and running again. $1989. I'm going to share my screen in just a second. 1989 would be. So 1989 he started, right, Mr. B.N. Raoji? That's the time he started. That's the time he.
No. That time he got highlighted against Pakistan on match. I think first match.
First match. Okay. So did he hit like a century or something in the first match?
Yes. He did a very good performance first match. Okay. Even the Pakistan people also appreciated a lot for him. At that time, his age is 16 or 17, something like that.
Okay. Wow. Okay. And then what was his next big one, like where he became a star?
From that onwards, continuous raised.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen again. I think my camera is not going to work. But right after Moon comes Mars, and Mars is like his top planet. And the planet that. This is something interesting, actually. I remember when we were discussing Bill Gates' chart also. Let me go back to sharing the chart. So all of you can see it. That it's not just the planet, the debilitated planet. Like you would think that the Neecha Bhanga, whichever planet's debilitation is getting cancelled, that is the one that will show a lot of positive results. It's actually, even in Bill Gates' chart, it's actually Venus in Libra, and it is with a debilitated sun. But the maximum growth that Bill Gates saw was in Venus. So similarly here, Mars is the exalted planet. Mars is the one that's actually causing the cancellation. So as you can see, pretty much from 1992 to 1998 is till the age of 25, 26. It's Mars, it's the peak period, 5 and 10, profession, and exalted trinal lord. What about his performance in Rahu? Can somebody comment on that? How did he perform at like between 26 to let's say 41?
Could I, before you go there, could I ask you something? Sir's horoscope also has a debilitated Jupiter. And yesterday he was mentioning that his career took off in his Jupiter Mahadasha. Yes. So obviously his debilitation, his Jupiter debilitated got cancelled and became a Neecha Bhanga for some, because it's exalted in the Navamsha. So how do you explain that? His best phase started with in the debilitated planet phase.
That is correct. That is correct. So I'll tell you something. He told us about his chart. His chart is one of the best to study for Neecha Bhanga and for planets in the first house. If you study Guruji's chart, pretty much all the planets are in first house. So as far as I know, and I hope I'm quoting this correctly, he's also on the call probably. He actually did not have any gurus for the starting portion of his life. So the debilitation part was playing its role, and then the Raj Yoga part kicked in. And then something's very interesting about his chart is, and I actually have it, but Sir said not to dilute it, so I'm not going to open the chart. But he said his is like a double two rules, two very solid rules that support his Raj Yoga. One is Jupiter is debilitated and Mars is exalted, kind of like similar to Sachin Tendulkar's. And his Guruji's ascendant is also Makar Lagna, Capricorn. The second thing is Saturn, the lord of the house, the lord of the dispositor basically, is also sitting in its own house. Saturn is sitting in the own house. So there are two extremely solid factors to make the yoga very, very strong. Now, going back to your point, he actually, the debilitation part, he had felt it in the beginning portion of his life. And yes, you're right. When it came to the Jupiter part, his life actually transformed after Rahu Mahadasha. But in the beginning part, whether it was weightlifting, he did not have any teacher. And when he went to a teacher, they could not believe that he had done so much without a trainer. Even in astrology, he did not have a teacher. So he was pretty much like teacherless for the longest period of his life. And then when Jupiter Mahadasha came along, life basically transformed. And today he's one of the best teachers and counselors.
So basically it was not during the exalted Mars, it was during the debilitated Jupiter. So maybe we have to revisit that rule.
That part, yes. I will have to ask Guruji what were the results in his Mars Mahadasha. Yeah. Like what did he experience during that period of his life? That is something.
There was, Swamiji, there was one note that I remember from one of the books, which said that when you have a debilitated planet, it means that, I'm talking from memory, so I'm just giving you very a gross idea of what it was written there, is that the planet is trying to tell you to overcome that weakness.
Yeah.
If there is a debilitated Jupiter, it means that the chart, if it has the power, this is the time for it to overcome that weakness. So here, if you say there is some weakness in Jupiter, that means that he has to overcome. In this chart, for example, in Sachin Tendulkar's, a debilitated or a weak Jupiter means that he has to overcome something. And this is the chart. It has the power because of the Mars and Sun being exalted. And both of them are very powerful planets. They have given him the power to overcome that weakness. That was his life lesson, his karmic lesson. And the same thing applies even for Guruji also. Right?
Yes.
See, he overcame that and he became that which was weak.
Yes. He actually became, I can't believe it, like a debilitated planet's profession. He's pretty much mainly a teacher, a counselor, a healer, everything that Jupiter represents, wisdom. One thing that along the same lines, Kishorji, one good analogy Guruji had given was that in Kali Yuga, Neecha Bhanga came, like he said, right, towards the starting of Kali Yuga, because he said that once you're debilitated, there is no further place to go down. You have to only go up from there. So debilitation has become more exciting or more relevant for Kali Yuga, because if you're already exalted, that's the peak. What better can you get? There's nothing to do. But when you're debilitated, you have a lot to prove because you're like at the rock bottom. So
also similar to Saturn, for example, if they say that Saturn is not showing up in a good way in the chart, then the person will have to work hard, right? Especially if it's if you talk about the placement of Saturn, if you talk about the dignity of Saturn, even Saturn Dasha, If there is a problem, then the person has to become a hard worker, right? He cannot be lazy. Saturn by itself is a lazy planet, right?
Correct.
So he has to overcome that. That is a life lesson, isn't it? We can
I
draw
think
these. We
Saturn
can draw these
negative
parallels.
Negative would be lazy. Saturn
Yeah,
positive.
that's what I'm
would be
saying.
very
I said
hardworking.
afflicted Saturn, no?
Yeah.
So to overcome that weakness, then we have to do the opposite of what Saturn is intending us to do. If Saturn tells us that we need to be lazy, then we have to overcome that. For that, we need the Purushartha, Icha Shakti. That is the lesson.
Yeah, very true. Because he was very hardworking. So he started. Somebody pasted it in chat. He was 14 years old. Wow. When he scored individual scores of 326 not out. That was in school, is it? Or that was like state cricket or something. Harris Shield Trophy. Okay. That's pretty young. Wow.
His international debut was on 15th November 1989, which is Moon Ketu Jupiter. Moon Ketu Jupiter. Ketu is placed in its 12th house. I'm not sure how can we interpret that, because Ketu is not that strong, right? And if we look at what you were reading, even Moon's not that strong to bring him to that height. Unless you say Ketu is placed in 12th, so would have given him that opportunity. But it was the Antara of Jupiter.
Yeah, I think this timeline, the starting timeline, we will need Guruji's guidance, and I hope he's listening. Because I would have not guessed a Moon Mahadasha for his, his rise per se. So I think that let's put that question as a parking lot important question for Guruji, unless anybody else wants to contribute or has any ideas about that.
I think he has a Mars, Ruchaka Yoga. I think that would be playing in the background all the time.
Yes, that is
and
true.
That Mars is aggression, no? So I think that would overcome all his
courageous, valor. Yep.
Yeah. And it's with Jupiter. Again, his Ruchaka Yoga is conjunct Jupiter. So that's even better, no? Even though it's debilitated.
Correct.
That's a Guru Mangala Yoga and the 7th
Would we
house
say
also.
aggression in a negative way, or is it an aggression with respect to the use of force? Internal force.
He's obviously used aggression in a positive way, no? He's scored all his runs.
Yeah. Because a Mars exalted does not necessarily mean the person will be violent. That's what somebody was asking me.
Aggression, actually, exalted Mars is the opposite of violence. They are extremely mature. They know when to use the aggression as compared to using it to get revenge. They use it in the right force. That's why it's exalted. No? A debilitated Mars is when you have anger issues and aggression issues. It's when you have an exalted Mars, you do not use your aggression for the wrong purposes. That's what the exaltation means, is Mars is very happy where he is. And he has his best friend with him. So it's as a Guru Mangala Yoga in the 7th house. And a Ruchak. So all these yogas must be overcoming all his moon in 6th house. Rahu in 6th house actually is very good because it's Rahu in 6th house is one of the best combinations, best positions for Rahu besides being 3rd and 10th and 11th. So Rahu in 6th is good.
Yeah, Mars, Guruji always says, is a desire planet. It represents desire. And when channeled correctly, when it is placed correctly, when its strength is correctly, it can go negative very quickly. But if it is channeled correctly, then you have sports people, you have athletes, you have, good warriors, you have, police, officers, big officers. So Mars can, when it's in a good, when it's in overall, not just exalted, but overall, when it's good, if it's meant to do good, then it represents a lot of that. Aggression is a negative word. I feel like aggression will be only when it's slightly afflicted or more afflicted, depending on the intensity. But when it is in it's a very delicate balance, but when it's in its positive side, then it is all about courage, hard work, and even athletic bodies also, like people who are athletic. Muhammad Ali, I think, also has a very strong Mars, the boxer. So, but he was also a little aggressive. So that's why Mars is like it can go, the aggression. I mean, it can go in a negative direction very quickly, even with little bit of affliction. But yeah, in this particular case, it's a very, very good planet for this chart. So
Soumyaji, you wanted the dates, right?
yeah, I was
Okay.
thinking that Rahu, I wanted to understand. So Mars is kind of, first let's tally the dates that you have.
Yeah, the first date that we have is, the earliest date is 15th November 1989, which was the Arangetram, that is the entry into the arena. Test debut, 15th November 1989. You see it has connection with the 10th and the Lagna Lord. I mean, the Lagna Lord and the 10th, the planet in the 10th.
I think I'm sharing my screen right now, right?
Yeah. I'm also seeing it in my thing.
I just have one point, if I may not interrupt you. I'm sorry to interrupt. So do we also have to consider the transit chart during that time? Because at times when a person is going through 5th Jupiter, or let's say 9th Jupiter transit, or let's say Sadesati, some benefic Sadesati times, that might also be a possible cause of some positive event happening.
That would be, I think, to reascertain something, right? Whereas what we're getting from Dasha, Antardasha, would be proof that the chart is working, right? The way we have read it.
That's right. So let's say there are chances where a person is going through a very favorable Mahadasha and Antardasha, but or is going through Sadesati, a troubleful times with Sadesati, especially with Sadesati with, let's say, Rahu conjunction, or let's say, and there were times once, at least when I was going through Sadesati, I had Saturn, Rahu, and Mars, all three in Libra. So some aspect, some attributes like that might be also a probable cause that Mahadasha or Antardasha is not feeling it to that extent.
And also, I think I am shifting gears from transits a little bit, but we should also look at the D10 chart, right? Because we're discussing profession.
Yeah.
D10, I think, will be more relevant than D9. But D9, of course, for his marriage, and I know we'll come to the wife portion also. But I think it seemed like he started getting success way before the wife came into the picture. So I had also heard that story, but going by his age, 14, 16, it looks like he started getting his fame irrespective of the wife. But anyways, going back to D10, we can also, it's right here at the bottom. Hopefully it's visible. Anything that we see here, perhaps? Oh, moon is in the ascendant, actually, there in the D10 chart. And again, Mars in the 10th.
So, Soumya, how is it going?
Going good, Guruji. We had a question for you. Is that okay?
Hope I can find the answer.
So he started rising in his moon Mahadasha, moon Ketu, Jupiter, moon Ketu, moon Mahadasha, Ketu Antardasha. So as far as his chart is concerned, a lot of positive things, but as far as the Lagna Lord is concerned, moon in the 6th, that too a waning moon, that too with Rahu. So could you help us understand how the period of moon could be the one where his first success as the youngest cricketer came about?
A small correction here, Soumyaji. Was it Moon Ketu?
Yeah, if it's like age 16, or somebody told me 16, right?
If you don't take the age, even if you take when did you debut in international cricket, That's a moon Ketu, 15th.
1989,
Yeah,
right?
1989. Yeah, that's a moon Ketu.
Is this the rectified horoscope or the 1 p.m. horoscope?
No, Guruji, this is the original one, 1 p.m.
1 p.m.
The
Okay.
rectified one is the version 2. Yeah, if you see my cursor, the blue one is version 2.
I see.
So that's not it. I'm not displaying that right now. I'm only displaying the 1 p.m.
You're showing 1 p.m. Okay.
Yeah.
I think there was no need to do rectification because if this is right, the Dashamsa kind of explains it all over again. Everything.
I see.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. When you started asking me this question, you said, you used the word rising sign, right? Right. You said rising of Sachin Tendulkar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we will never forget that Lagna is actually rising. Okay. So we always rise in our Lagnadhipati's Dasha. It helps us so much, no matter where it is. Second point about astrology, especially Indian astrology, which concept is not being used in Western astrology. Something very special to Indian astrology is the theory of dispositor. Dispositor has been used all over astrology, right? Indian astrology. Never underestimate the dispositor theory. Okay. So one, if you say one of the Sanskrit slokas describe the dispositor as the nourisher. What is a dispositor? Who is a dispositor? See, in our beginner session, I used to say, think of planets as human beings, and think of all that we discuss in with regard to planets as something that is happening on Earth, and then you will easily understand astrology. So, from this point of view, can you try to say what exactly is a dispositor?
A dispositor could be like a mother who's sharing her resources with the child and who's helping the child to overcome obstacles. The person who gives us shelter.
Yeah. So that's why the ancients have used the word nourisher, the one who nourishes the graha. But you look at it like this. If there is a planet in a particular house, and let's say he's in trouble, normal, common sense, and they're looking out for him, to attack him or something. Then they come to know this house is owned by a very important person. You got to imagine this in real life. It's not about the tenant now. Let's say the police is going towards this person, and they'll be, outside, they'll say this property is owned by somebody very big. So that's why the word nourisher has been used. The dispositor is the nourisher, the one who, what is the exact word in Sanskrit for nourisher? I forgot, but can always find out. Okay. That is the original statement about dispositor. One. And two, I want to tell you that every little thing in the horoscope is important. But the problem with divisional charts is that unless you get the time of birth, you cannot be very sure. But now that we know Sachin has achieved great, he started his career in Moon itself and not waiting for Mars. Normally, Mars should have been, right? So, in astrology, after we say something about the D1 chart or even the Bhava chart, the rishis keep moving to other areas connected to that. So they don't conclude quickly. They wait for more clues. Now, why is this Jupiter so extraordinary? That we have to understand. Only then you'll know the power of this nourisher. Do you understand? Who is he? You want to find out. Oh, this is a very powerful person who owns this house. So we cannot get into the house so quickly and attack this guy. So what do you think about Jupiter, the dispositor? Forget Neecha Bhanga for the time being. Anyway, it is Neecha Bhanga also. But from simple points, can you say what is special about this Jupiter? That he nourishes the moon so much. Okay, before that, in the Dasha introduction itself, the Maharishi says, there will be rising in Lagnadhipati's period. The Lord of Lagna. Straight away, one-liner. Gives us a good, what we call head start. Heads up. Right? If you know, Lagnadhipati gives this. The period of the Lord of the Second gives us great suffering. So like that he has given. In the period of the Lord of the Fifth, there will be educational achievements. Because fifth house is something like, the mind and rewards and awards. With education, we get the titles and so on. In the Dasha of the planet connected to the ninth house, the Lord of the Ninth, there will be prosperity and bhagya. So don't forget these one-liners. That the Graha went to the sixth is making him subject to enemies. See, now we are also comfortable. You got to be in his place at that time. Your adrenaline will be at its highest rush because you're suddenly taking on big guys. If that day before achievement, if you interview, you will know what is the power of a planet being in the sixth house. They'll be so worried about the war. The sixth house is house of war, the fight, the competition, and so on. So that way the sixth house will be fulfilled. But he's attacked by enemies, right? And the strange thing in cricket is you're attacked by so many people at one time. Though, of course, you may say, oh, there's only one bowler, but then there are so many things. Somebody can catch your ball or, I used the... so, like, for example, you could be run out, you could be stumped, you could be... Like, it's almost like everybody is after you, right? So, that experience is there. But over and above this, we have another issue. Another way of looking at it, not an issue, is that there is a synopsis view of the horoscope in terms of yoga. Then you're not that much, dependent on only the dasha. Suppose, let's say he has to make it big in Mars Mahadasha. Will it not start a little earlier than that to reach there? Will he appear all on a sudden on stage in Mars Dasha and not in the sun or not in the moon? So moon sets the background. It is like I'm rising. I'm beginning to get up. So please don't bother yourself so much with how he started off in moon when moon is in the sixth house. Okay. For him, he is first time subject to enemies. From his point of view. From our point of view, it's so comfortable sitting back now and talking about him. At that time, only those who are in sports, they will know about what goes on in your mind when you're playing the game. There'll be the adrenaline rush. Your heartbeat will increase. You will get thirsty. You want water. All kinds of things will happen.
So, Guruji, in this case, Jupiter is also the dispositor for Mercury, which was debilitated. So, it basically saved Mercury also. So, it saved both, right? Like, saved as in Moon as the Lagna Lord, and then another debilitated planet that's sitting in the 9th house. Is that fair to say?
How did he connect Moon to Mercury?
No, I meant Mercury is also in Jupiter's house. So Jupiter is the dispositor for Mercury also. And Mercury is debilitated. So that means it has supported that planet also, right? Supported Mercury also, right? Or they are not connected. These two things are not the way Moon is being supported.
No, the straightaway answer is the dispositor theory. Moon's dispositor is Jupiter. So the more you can find positive things about Jupiter, that much Moon will become. So what is the speciality of this Moon, this Jupiter is the Lord of the 9th house of Bhagya. Whenever it sits in ascendant, 7th house, it looks at the ascendant. So what is the connection with the ascendant? This is a sport where your body is needed, your physical. There are many activities of the 5th house where your physical body is not the main point. Here it is definitely the physical body, like in movies or in sport or in some of the sports, your physical body. Whereas in other things like chess, you can be with your virtual also. You can play over internet. You can play many games without being physically there, right? So the physic part is being fueled by, I mean, it's all sorts of yogas. For example, the 10th Lord and the 5th Lord, the Yogakaraka Mars and Jupiter together, they look at the ascendant. So
I have a point. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
So this particular Moon, you don't have to, try to interpret many rules. It is simple. In Dashamsa, it is in ascendant along with the 10th Lord. So Moon gets the power to kickstart career just because it is in 1st house. That's why I asked, is it rectified? Because sometimes, in rectification, you will force the shift and try to fulfill that condition. So if you say this is 1 p.m. chart, then we will take it as the accurate one. There is no need for rectification. I don't know on what grounds it was rectified, because as far as D10 chart is concerned, there is no need to rectify. Because in every divisional chart is always the Lagna. That is the most important thing. Next, in D10, it is the 10th Lord. What more do you want? The 10th Lord is in Lagna along with Moon. That's all. So Moon is ready. And on top of that, when I came in, you said, why did he rise in Moon Mahadasha? I said, that's a rising sign. The Lord of the rising sign. If you don't rise in that period, when will you rise? But explaining the 6th house position is that he's in a war-like status all the time. I'm subject to war. So when we played the the doubles game, snooker, I played it with Rahman, the actor, and we won. People rejoice at the end. And then when we see the cup, it's only celebration time. But when we were in the game, I drank 1.5 liters of water. You understand? If it's in my own game, I don't care, because if I lose also, what's the big deal? But if it's a doubles game, we are responsible. The other guy feels so bad, like I messed it up. So there is a pressure. So war, litigation, games, they're all definitely connected to 6th house also. It's after a fight that you succeed. And when you succeed, people only celebrate the success, but they don't know what you fought, how you fought. So his fighting begins there. But Lagnadhipati in 6 is I fight all the time. right? So it helps. So now it makes sense why, because Mars is the warrior, Ruchaka Yoga. What will a warrior do? He'll sit peacefully at home. He'll fight. So it is strange that the moon Ketu opened up because it is on the enemy's axis, 612 axis. Win or lose. Litigation, fight, surgery, are going to come out of the hospital. 612 axis. So the horoscope is perfect. And in D10 chart, you have the moon in Lagna with the 10th lord. Right? And see how again it has happened that Mars holds on to the 10th house. So Mars in the 10th, warrior again and again. Ruchaka Yoga, again Mars in the 10th in D10 chart, again holding a weapon. At this time, this weapon is harmless. He's having a bat with him. Right? So slightly much better off. And again in D10, Jupiter managed to look at the Lagna. So it's the axis, like if you look at the degrees of ascendant and Jupiter, they're almost on the same point. So it will be how much? 100% aspect. So if those of you who know who is the Atma Karaka for this horoscope?
Mars.
Mars is the Atma Karaka because he has the highest degree, right? So that Mars, the Atma Karaka, sits in the 10,000 D10. And who is Mars? My soul, my 5th lord, my games, and my 10th house. And in 10, there's already an exalted planet. And that too at Parama point. The exactness of exaltation. So this adds to the world number 1 position. Because Sun is always number 1. In numerology, Sun is 1. And in the solar system, Sun is the biggest. So when people say he is the legend, he is the, the one nobody can ever try to reach. Therefore, it is the Sun. So what is Mars doing? Mars is again connected to the Sun. Mars is looking at the 10th. Mars is in the 10th in D10. So it's a perfect thing. See, the point was why we had this discussion is, like we were, discussing on the lines that can we spot the what exactly is this surprise here? What is the David in this person of every Neecha Bhanga Raja Yoga? That was the point. But for all this, we need perfect time of birth. Otherwise, Bhava positions may change. Lots of things can happen. But here, if you say point blank, rising in moon, we can answer by rising Lagnadhipati. Even if somebody is sick, somebody is in the hospital, you know how you have to do Pratyantar? Or if you want to do Sukshma, look out for the Lagnadhipati's period. That's the rule given in Prashna. The Lagnadhipatis, any period, will try to get you out of the hospital. It will make you rise from the bed. You're sleeping in the mother's stomach for 10 months and you rise in Lagna. You wake up. So, but if a planet was to be separately in 6th house, that's a different point in a Dusthana. But here it is also Lagna Lord. So you have to be very careful. If on the other hand, if this planet had no other Raja Yogas, then maybe the Lagna Lord in the 6th, whatever you may have read from BPHS or, the standard approach, that it is not good to have Lagnadhipati in the 6th. But even then, you see, there are some rules for this. It's not that, see, one, it is in, moon is in Jupiter sign. And Jupiter's, that's what the dispositional theory is all about. But if you think Rahu is close by, how many of you feel Rahu is close? it may have been afflicted by Rahu.
Just about 7.5 degrees almost, right?
Yeah, 7 degrees. There is a marginal affliction by Rahu, but the dispositor overcomes all that. His arch rival, Jupiter, is completely opposite to Rahu. When Rahu represents ignorance, Jupiter represents wisdom. If Rahu is a Rakshasa, Guru represents God. Right? So Jupiter is truly the God. That's why you call him, I don't know if that is appropriate, God of cricket. What is the godliness here? 9th Lord, 10th Lord conjunctions. In the Lagna, looking at, in the 7th, looking at Lagna. Even Parashara has said, any planet that looks at Lagna straight opposite, that planet, those planets have a great effect on the personality, as much as being in Lagna. Okay.
Sir, just one thing. So Ketu's exaltation in Dashamsha, that could be the reason, or like I'm just asking you.
No, I think, see, one thing about this is when you have an overall great horoscope, you're not that dependent on Dasha and Antardasha. You're always that. Okay. But if you want to use the timing method, I feel that it is a purely he's being subject to enemies, and from there he is rising. So, because Maharshi did not say Ketu is exalted in Mithuna, he said he's exalted in Ketu is exalted in Vrishchika. Rahu is exalted in Rishabha, Taurus. But in one of the translations, like I think GC Sharma's, he has made a mistake, somebody made a mistake, either Santanam or GC Sharma, I don't know. One of them reversed it. Okay. The Ucha Neecha points of Rahu and Ketu. But Rahu Ketu exaltation is on Taurus and Scorpio axis and not on Mithuna and Dhanush axis.
Yeah, that's what in Dashamsha you see Ketu exalted, right? That's what I was saying.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, I missed that. Sorry about that. Okay. In Dasamsa, Ketu is exalted. Fantastic point. So moon in Lagna, Ketu in 4th. Again, Kendra. So you see this Dashamsa is very active. Look at his Dashamsa, 1, 4, 7, 10.
There's one more aspect, Guruji, in Dasamsa. Mars aspecting the Lagna along with Jupiter.
Okay. Again, there's a repetition of what has happened in the main chart. Whenever in divisional chart anything repeats, it becomes very strong. Separately, it is not so strong. Repetitions, like it's very active. You know, sports people have to be very active. So 1, 4, 7, 10 occupied. And in that, you are having the 10th Lord in Lagna. Again, Yoga Karaka for Simha Lagna is Mars. Mars is sitting in 10th. The Lord of sports and profession. It's a professional player, right? So 5, 10. 5 and 10 Lord sitting in Ruchaka Yoga. Along with the Jupiter 9th Lord. So you name the Raj Yoga, it is all there in this chart. And apart from that, Saturn in the 11th alone, you know, such a extraordinary combination. Simply because when Indrajit was born, Ravana tried to, adjust the time of birth. Though they say he tried to bring the planets into one position. That was the layman's way of, describing that you're fixing the Lagna, match fixing type, fixing the Lagna. But Saturn moved out of the 11th. If Saturn was in 11th, Ravana said, my son would have been invincible. Not even the gods can defeat him after that. But Saturn in the Bhava chart went to the 12th. Okay. So Saturn in the 11th is something extraordinary. Or maybe Mars, Jupiter's dispositor Saturn, that is sitting in 11th house. So we can add that point also. Okay.
So I just have one other question which Soumyaji brought up. So here Mars being the Lagna Lord, sorry, the 5th and the 10th Lord is aspecting the first, but there was a point that Mars is a natural malefic, and then the aspect to the ascendant is it a Shubham aspect, meaning a auspicious one, or can we consider it as auspicious? And another question that I have is, can we also interpret the chart this way that when it was the Moon Mahadasha where he started his career, and then the 5th and the 7th being the Raja Yoga, and then being a very famous personality, name and fame. So can we say that it's a preparation that is happening towards the Mars Mahadasha?
Yeah, it is a preparation, definitely, because you need to be there on time to reach that point. So also, in astrology, we have this theory: coming events cast their shadows before. Okay, like even in the layperson's language, also we know that if something has to happen later, you must begin a little earlier. There will be signs of that. And one more thing about for malefics and benefics. After mentioning about the natural nature of grahas, the like malefics and benefics. After that, you should quickly shift to specific things about the horoscope. For Sachin, the best of planet is Mars, because the Maharishi himself has said that. When he says that, it implies, as far he is concerned, Mars is a benefic. For him, Saturn is malefic, Mercury is malefic, and Venus is malefic. Okay, so the nature, we have discussed this in our beginners class. The same person, the police officer, is a friend to me, but an enemy to the criminal. So what is the police officer? It's only from my point of view. The thief will say it's from my point of view, he is the most fearsome guy. Right? So it is like, I am a Cancer ascendant. From my point of view, Mars is the best planet for me, and then Jupiter, and so on. Right? It's always function. Rohit, you have not attended our beginner session. That's why you have this doubt.
Yeah, I actually brought the same point, being Mars being the functional benefic aspecting the ascendant would be it would be auspicious, but there was a discussion that turned out that Mars being a natural malefic, when it aspects ascendant, might not be a auspicious one. So I just had a conflict or a confusion. I just wanted to confirm.
In terms of aspect, like just the aspect portion, Mars aspecting the Lagna will be on the negative side of the stack up, right? But Mars being the Yoga Karaka is a very solid, heavier weightage point on the positive side.
Exactly. Correct? So at that time, you should give up the first rule that you mentioned. You should not hold on. When it is both a functional malefic and then it is also a natural malefic, then such an aspect is bad.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Now it is completely different. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt there. And another aspect, the question about dispositor that you brought up, I just wanted to re-clarify or confirm my understanding. So let's say for Jupiter and Mars, so the dispositor would become Saturn, and for Moon and Rahu, the dispositor becomes Jupiter. Sorry, so Rahu wouldn't have a dispositor, obviously. So Moon, would it be Jupiter? Just to confirm my understanding.
Yeah. For Moon, it is Jupiter.
Okay.
And for Jupiter and Mars, it is Saturn.
Saturn. Okay. And any thumb rules, if you don't mind, can you please, can I take a privilege of asking you, giving some points about the dispositor?
What is it you said?
So any specific attributes about the dispositor, like when does a dispositor, rules about a dispositor? So I'm just curious.
Okay, the dispositor should be placed very well and not in again 6, 8, and 12.
Okay. And if dispositor is presented well, then if any debilitations or afflictions pertaining to that planet gets compensated or cancelled, can we interpret the statement?
Dispositor is?
If dispositor of a planet of let's say here in Moon, dispositor is Jupiter.
Okay.
Jupiter being conjunct with Mars, and even if the Lagna Lord or the Moon being in the 6th house is cancelling or giving some Yogakaraka results, can we interpret it that way?
Yeah. That's what we are doing here.
So, I just wanted to.
Yeah, for that, what we do is you think like this. This house belongs to somebody, but that somebody is an IAS officer. But the guy sitting inside is a very ordinary person. But nobody will dare enter that house because they know the owner.
Yeah.
So the owner has created a set of Raja Yogas, and therefore Moon borrows from it. The Moon will quote, in whose house I am.
Right, got it.
Yeah.
And then he is also given that offerings because you're placed at a house which has all the luxuries, etc.
Exactly.
Got it.
Like,
Thank you so much.
Theory, right, Guruji?
What?
जानते नहीं हो तो मैं कौन हूँ? Like in Hindi movies, they say, right? तुम जानते नहीं मैं कौन हूँ? Like you don't know who I am.
Yeah.
Like,
who I am will come when you are, maybe you are yourself strong or you are associated with somebody who's very strong. It happens, all the time in the world. Do you know who I am with? This will be, the driver of a top police officer will act big.
And another question is, does Rahu and Ketu also behave the same as dispositors? So let's say if Rahu here is in Sagittarius or Dhanus Rasi, so does he have the attributes or pertaining to Jupiter? So if Jupiter is placed well, so can we say that the afflictions to Rahu also would be compensated?
Yes. There'll be more of good. There'll be more of the good side of Rahu now, because its dispositor has created yoga.
Got it. Yeah.
And there is another set of rules for Rahu Ketu that Rahu always does very well in 3, 6, 10, 11. Upachaya sthana.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is Upachaya?
The suffering, the past. So Rahu itself being the past life, because it goes in the retrograde motion. So and that to being in the 3, 6, 11. So that helps us to get rid of the previous past karmas. Can we interpret it that way?
Upa means up. The word English word up. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
Upper. Upper. You understand?
Yeah.
So Upachaya means going upwards. But the problem with Rahu Ketu is they keep swapping the results. It's not just in Rahu Antardasha they can give the result. They can give the same result in Ketu also. Okay. But here, the point is in D10, it reveals a lot more why he got it all, in Moon Ketu itself. Okay. Why we should do postmortem analysis is because this will lead you to a better understanding, because the results are already there and you only have to see. It's like studying any game for that matter. Okay. How do you study games? By watching another game. So also in astrology, you got to watch the horoscopes of people who have lived their lives. And when even though it may say it's all because I know who this person is, even then it helps. Because there's no other way to learn. How else will you learn? How else will you be sure? And one important thing is that you can only say they'll be very good at something to do with 5th house. That's it. You'll never be able to say what that person is. Exactly. In fact, according to me, this person would have been an actor also. Because I have at least 60 successful actors horoscope. They all have 5, 9, 10, all of this connected in the horoscope. And they also use their body, their physical, presence. They're slightly different because maybe Venus is involved more because it is like a show off or something. But even then, even in a movie, the theme would be most probably fighting only. right? Or something like a hero. So the 5th house and 10th house are always connected to both sports and entertainment. You cannot find out which, unless you are told. That's the truth. Suppose the parents of this boy comes to people like us when they're very young. You can only say that the person will be extraordinary. And they'll be in either sports or inventions or entertainment, and stop at that. But if then you want to add little more like Mars, and then you know how to conduct this discussion. You have to ask, how's this boy? Is he liking any games? Like that you have to ask. There's no other way. He is interested more in games than in studies, means then you should say that is his future. That's all. Only there you can conclude. Otherwise, he could be somebody in some invention, creating something that it will be a record for the whole world. Forever it will be there, whatever he creates. Now he created world records because 5th house is house of creation. So the next time you consult a horoscope similar to this, you should say you have a son who's extraordinary. Like that you should start off by saying, and what is it extraordinary? You should admit that even I don't know. You understand?
Guruji, we had one question about your chart because it also had Neecha Bhanga Raj Yoga. Somebody brought up, we were discussing that results, like your story is that in Jupiter Mahadasha, it picked up and you became, even though your Jupiter is debilitated.
No, but I started in Rahu Mahadasha.
Yeah.
But the success came exactly when Jupiter Mahadasha came. And when I was deeply in trouble in Rahu Mahadasha, for so many years, I used to tell, I'm waiting for my Guru Mahadasha. And the person I convinced was mainly my wife, because I said, please wait. Kindly bear with me. You understand? So,
and Guruji, how was your Mars? Because Mars is exalted, right, in your chart?
Yeah, Mars was my transformation. I completely transformed in Mars. If I say Neecha Bhanga, it is actually Mars which did it. I was a weakling, a very, very, weak person. So my father tried his best to make me strong. The slightest rain, just the drizzle, I'll shiver. After that, I'll catch a cold and so on. But in this 40 years, I had a cold at least only 2 or 3 times. You put me in water for 5 hours, 6 hours of swimming, I will not catch a cold. Complete transformation in Mars. I changed, overnight, you can say. My attitude changed. But in Moon, I was the weakest person. My Moon in the 8th.
So the weightlifting period, Guruji, was in Mars?
Yes, it was in Mars.
Okay, that makes sense. The warrior and the strength.
No, but I was always fascinated with archery. So I used to, make my own bow and arrow and aim perfectly, which helped me in becoming a good, in NCC, we had this rifle and I came first there. And the man who was conducting it said, you must have had training before. You cannot do it like this first time. And the best part of it was that I never had a teacher. In chess, when I became in Loyola College 3 times champion, even then I had no teachers. I learned it by myself. When I bet B.V. Raman, he asked me, who's your teacher? I said, I don't have anybody. Your books are my teacher. So he was, terribly impressed with that. And he took me around, introduced me to all the VIPs in Bangalore in that conference. He was with me all the time. Or most of the time, sorry. All the time is not wrong. Is wrong. So in weightlifting, I had the same problem. I learned it by myself, and the teacher, disbelieved. He said, I'm telling a lie. It's impossible for anybody to do that. So the same thing happened when I finally met Sheshadrina, the Shastrigal, who taught me horoscope matching. He said, unless you know this from your past life, you could not have learned this. Okay. So I feel it has got something to do with the planet in question, either with the exaltation planet or with the debilitation planet. There is something common here. Now, if Sachin performs at that level, who can be his teacher?
If I may ask a question, or if I may bring a point, so about your horoscope aspect, so is it that do you have your fifth house being very strong, if I may ask you, because fifth house is generally something that relates to the previous life or the Purva Punya. So if that is anyway connected to your...
No, my horoscope is simple. I have all the planets in ascendant Makara, Capricorn.
Oh, okay.
That's all. Moon in the 8th and Rahu in the 7th. My horoscope is neat. Soumya is so fast. She's able to put my horoscope instantly.
That's nice.
No, when I have to study planets in first house, Guruji, I open your chart.
Okay.
Guruji.
So who's my Atma Karaka?
Mercury, Jupiter. No.
Mercury,
I'm sorry.
Mercury. Mercury is the planet for astrology and logics. So everything I was looking at logically with the calculation portion. When I defeat people who have been playing 20 years snooker, for me only 2 years practice. What is the difference is because I calculate a lot. I think a lot. I study a lot. I watch videos of the world #1 players and then watch it again and again in slow motion to find what is he aiming for. So when I hit some shots, they already started calling me with the name of the world's greatest snooker player right now. Manoj knows it. And yet I'm not that big because I need more practice. But my attitude is different. So when you see Mars as Atma Karaka for Sachin, you know what would be his mentality. Atma Karaka and Amatya Karaka, you must always understand. Okay? Be very careful with the Atma Karaka and Amatya Karaka.
Guruji, I came across a chart which was resembling yours, Guruji.
Okay.
And that person was none other than the king of Jordan.
Oh my God.
Exactly yours. Exactly similar to yours. The only difference is the placement of Moon and Rahu.
Yeah,
all
but
the other planets are in Makara. And his birth date was just 4 days beyond yours.
Okay.
The same year, same month, the date alone is different.
The problem with Moon in the 8th is it will take me to the spiritual side. You understand? Because Moon in the 8th.
Mm-hmm.
So I was converting everything into the spiritual in every situation. Like I was playing chess, I was thinking about what is human being? What is a human being doing? Why is he so interested in winning a game? Why am I interested in winning a game? What if I let the other person win? What's wrong with that? I convert everything into philosophy. When a student asks a question also, I will convert it into philosophy. You understand? So the moon's position is absolutely, can say the most important thing. The way you think, the moon. So Sachin is thinking of enemies. You understand? You have to be in sports to know how will it be when a fast bowler from the other side is approaching you. You could be 0. Did Sachin hit zeros? What do you call that? Duck out? Or no? Yes or no?
Add to that the pressure of the spectators, Guruji.
Yes, pressure of
not just the
spectators,
enemies on the field,
home crowd
psychological.
pressure. Yeah, home crowd pressure. You will always be inside, literally, I don't know what to say. You'll be in that shape all the time in any war. Even Arjuna, the greatest warrior, is afraid of war. Duryodhana could not bear the tension, and so he went into to cool down his body, he went into a lake. So war, games, these are not ordinary things, something very big. So Rahman, when he won that cup along with me, he has posted it in every group. Why? Game is not an ordinary event. It's something about the fighting in us, the victorious in us. Okay. So when you say Mars is the Yogakaraka for him and for me Mercury is a Yogakaraka, you can see the difference. Like this, every little thing you got to count and calculate, but it takes time. It's not so easy. And I've given you the article. I have to go for my consultation now. So we'll stop the meeting here. Soumya, thank you so much.
No problem, Guruji.
For being the co-host while I was preparing. So
thank you for the opportunity, Guruji.
Okay.
Thank you, Guruji.
This video will be uploaded on Patreon and on YouTube membership. Okay.
Great.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank you,
nice
sir.
day.
Thank you, Soumya ji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Soumya ji.
Thank you. Thank you.
So much. I learned a lot. Everybody,
Bye.
stop sharing. We'll talk about his wife later, some other day.
Okay, yeah. Soumya ji,
Are you having a session at 7 p.m.?
Huh? I'm sorry.
For 10th house revision, are you having a session today evening at 7 p.m. IST?
Actually, I'm planning to change that because I believe there's a Chennai meetup happening. Guruji told me. So we're probably going to have it next weekend.
Yes, we are having a get together, Soumya.
Yes.
Yeah, Guruji, no problem.
First time ever for students in Chennai meeting. We call it Chennai chapter.
Yeah, like Toastmasters and all that.
So we'll soon have Texas chapter and
yes.
Or what do you call that? Dallas. So
yes,
on.
Guruji. I wish I was there. Oh my God. I'm there in spirit.
Okay. Later, one of you can write a blog on this discussion, and we can, I'm planning to do some, create a proper website with our students' articles. So anybody, let's say 3 of you want to write about your experience with this horoscope in terms of combinations from astrological classical textbooks, giving proof about or validating the astrological rules from that point of view. Okay. So write a blog and we'll publish it.
Are you also planning a forum, Guruji, for all the students?
Yeah, that's what. It'll be like that. That's our plan. And we are trying to start off with doing free consultations for people who cannot afford our consultation. So there'll be, like in those days, group of astrologers consulting a horoscope. For the king's family, it was always like that. So we'll have something similar to that. But this time it will be for people who can't afford, those who want free consultation. But it will be a win-win for both. Okay. Is it all right?
Yes, sir.
Definitely, Guruji.
Yeah.
A very good idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
We would also love to be a part of it.
No, you are only the part. You are only the people.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Guruji.
Yeah, I'll be an outsider.
Okay.
I want you to become confident and say, yes, it is. But as long as you follow the main rules of astrology and don't give up on that, you must be getting consistent results. You won't make a mistake.
Yes,
Okay. Yes.
Some charts are easy, some charts are complicated.
I know. It's like that,
you know. Help.
Yeah, in your games also you see that, right? In chess games you see some games are easy. Right now in the morning I played a 3 minutes game, and I mean it's very very interesting game. I'll send you the link.
Oh yes.
And but I won eventually. That's a different point. But
please send me your games.
The game, the way it went was totally, like I tried some new things, and it was like a very exciting game. Okay.
Please send me, Guruji. Like before you used to send, no? Because I use those games in my classes actually.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, really, I'm not joking.
Okay.
Guruji,
we'll catch up.
Very quickly, I want to tell you, there is a good chart that I have, mixed chart for marriage related. It's very mixed. Plus, minus are like almost equal. I don't know if you would like to.
Sure. See, Soumya, our next will be where we will start with our first free consultation slot for Alamelu. Okay. We'll fix up a time when most of our students are, can attend, and I'll send her the link, and we'll see how it goes. We'll experiment with this model. You learn faster because you don't know anything about the client, and you start and you make it look like a real consultation. Wherever you feel that you should ask the person, don't feel shy. You can always ask, is this how it is, and so on, and then do the corrections immediately. Okay.
Nice. Okay, Guruji. Okay.
So I'm going to hit the end button.
Okay, Guruji.